Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start out by saying I remember back when I chaired this committee, the Boston Marathon bombing, just really a sporting event that went really bad, and it was avoidable. It was preventable had federal, state, and local been sharing information. The FBI had information about Mr. Tamerlan's trip to Dagestan, where he radicalized, came back. They did not share that adequately with the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Specifically, the commissioner of Boston didn't have any of that information, even though he had two agents or two officers on the task force. We changed that by law, but it's all about connecting the dots. Mr. Senator, you're in charge of the Fusion Center, which sometimes comes under criticism. We formed the Fusion Centers to share, everybody talks about connecting the dots after 9/11. That's exactly what you're doing. What do you see as one of the biggest threats as you look at the environment out there and the threat matrix? What keeps you up at night the most?
It's a combination of things. The first thing in the back of my head always right now is the financial piece, because we do need the resources to get things going.
And I'll get to that in a minute, yeah.
It's
threat.
It's a threat, because if we don't have the right people in place
Correct.
to do the job, it won't get done. The other thing is the multimodal communication systems that we've got right now, the lack of getting that tip and lead. That piece of information. We do a lot of work educating our law enforcement, public safety, private sector partners on what we need as far as those tips and leads, those suspicious activity reports. But we have a lot of different places those go right now. Multiple federal systems, multiple private sector parties that take tips and leads. The problem is when you have so many silos, how do you connect them all? And then when it comes to game day and those operations ahead of time, how do you bring people together? And for example, during Super Bowl, we had 7 different systems up. And so that worries me tremendously, merging those technologies.
Well, the Super Bowl is a test.
It's a test for us because we're having FIFA's coming to town, so that was a test. And I can tell you that came up in the after action when people were talking, how do I watch 7 systems that I'm having to put data into 7 different platforms? My own people especially. But how do we merge those? And technology is there. It's policy and practice and training.
Well, the technology is there. Is a policy and practice prohibiting that?
It is. Everyone has their own silo. So
okay, that's a real problem because we only have, it's going to be March, and they start in June. You got 100 games, over 100 games in 3 countries, Mexico, Canada, the United States. Let me ask you quickly, we were down in Mexico and got a joint training program with our military in both respective United States and Mexico, passed by their parliament. We saw the recent events in Mexico. They have drones. The violent uptick after the Jalisco cartel member was taken out. I know this is not in your purview, but you have to learn from those mistakes. How concerned are you about the gains in Mexico?
The big concern I've got, especially with drone activity, is that for that example, I had a person that was planning on flying a drone right into the Super Bowl. And so that part of that is that we can and have countermeasures there. But there are so many other locations that we don't have people trained and equipment in place for countermeasures that they can go anywhere a crowd is at and immediately hit those targets and cause mass destruction. And we don't have the capability across the board to fight every drone threat.
That's a great segue to my next point, and that is under the Safer Skies Act the chairman introduced and my task force recommended. We got that passed in the National Defense Authorization. That gives the ability to share with state and locals the counter-drone authorities, which is critically important. I'm surprised we had any opposition to that.